Today we're going to talk about segments that intersect with circles and interact with circles, and today we're going to talk about the arc measures and the angle measures that they create. So the first type of situation we're going to talk about are two chords that intersect. And here we have an angle that's interacting with two different arcs. We just call those arc 1 and arc 2. And this angle, you probably know, is the same as this angle because they're vertical angles. So there's a relationship that exists, and the angle that's formed by the two chords is equal to the two arc measures added together and then divided by 2. So a couple key things here. Number one is that we're going to add these arcs. And the second thing is that the angle has to interact with the appropriate arcs. So what I like to do is I like to take these two angles and close off the arcs that they should be interacting with. And it kind of makes a little bow tie. So the arcs and the angle are part of the same bow tie. If we were shown these arc measures, those are not the arc measures we want to use. We'd have to do something else. So let's give one of these a shot. I like to check first that I have an angle that interacts with the appropriate arcs. So I'll draw my bow tie. And 35, X, and 30 are part of that bow tie. So I can use those. I'll start with the relationship, of course. The angle is equal to the two arcs added together. Remember, added. And then divided by 2. So the angle is 35, so I'll plug that in there. X and 30 are the two arcs. It doesn't matter where they go. You could say 30 plus X. And then to get rid of the 2 on that right side, we'll multiply both sides by 2. These 2's cancel. And finally, I can find that the angle measure is 40 degrees. I'm sorry, the arc measure, that's X, is 40 degrees. Let's go ahead and pause here and try this one, find the value of X. So again, I'm going to check that these are the appropriate arcs. And X does interact with 46 and 90. So I'll start with the equation. X goes in for the angle this time, and I add the two arcs. Again, I'm going to highlight the fact that we're adding these two arcs. And I get that the angle is 68 degrees. So I have 3 pictures here, but they all have the same relationship. And this relationship is formed when either 2 tangents, 2 secants, or one of each intersect outside the circle. So we can see they all have an intersection point. And they create these angles here. And they also create a big arc and a small arc. A couple of them create more than 2 arcs, but we're looking at specific arcs. So I have a big arc created here by these 2 tangents. I have a big arc created by the 2 secants, and a big arc over here created by the 1 tangent and 1 secant. And they're all between the 2 lines. I also have small arcs created, again, between the 2 lines. And you can see that in each of these examples, the small arc is actually smaller than the big arc, and that's why I named them that way. So these are not technical terms, but hopefully they'll help you. So the relationship that exists here is that the angle measure that's formed is equal to the big arc minus the small arc divided by 2. Again, this is a big thing to remember. In this situation, we're subtracting. So let's put this into practice. Here I have a tangent and a secant. I have a big arc that's formed. It's in between those two. And then I have a small arc formed here. So the relationship is that my angle is equal to the big arc minus the small arc. So I have to plug in appropriately here. 20 degrees is my angle, 95 is my big arc, and x is my small arc. Again, subtracting. We'll multiply both sides by 2 here, and those 2's will cancel. And then we'll keep solving. When we get negative 55 is equal to negative x, all we have to do is multiply by negative 1, and we'll get that x is equal to 55 degrees. So this small arc is 55 degrees. And since the yellow arc, the one we were looking for, is the smaller one, it should be smaller than 95, and it is. Let's go ahead and pause here and try this one. So again, I have a big arc formed by these two secant lines, and then I have a small arc formed. And of course I have an angle here. And in this case, x is my angle, and I have the two measures for the arcs. So I start with my relationship. I plug in x for my angle, 110 for my big. We're subtracting. Remember, we're subtracting. 30 is my small. And I get that my angle formed by the two secants is 40 degrees. So the big deal here is to remember which formula applies for which situation. In the adding and subtracting, make sure you get those correct. So go ahead and give these two a shot, and you can check your answers and ask questions in class.